Hi, this is Rekka, and I'm Gabby. Join us all summer long as we're on the hunt for local businesses and amazing hidden gems in our beautiful cities of Edmonton and Fort McMurray, which this totally isn't. Tune in, because this is RNG in the 780.
Hi guys, this is Rekka from RNG in the 780 coming at you from Fort McMurray. Today we are joined by artist in residence, Cat Sivertsen. Cat, would you mind giving the folks at home an idea of who you are and kind of where we are right now?
Okay, my pleasure. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
My name's Cat Sivertsen. I'm a process-based visual artist. I come from first generation Northern Irish father and first generation Canadian, really Canadian. My mother's family migrated over the American border and were settlers down in Muir, which is down near between Red Deer and Calgary.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so it's kind of like anyway, I'll go into that a little bit. But so I've been practicing artist for 30 years. I went to art school, but I didn't go as a youngster. I went at 29 after my son was born, and I decided that when he started school, it was my turn to go to school too. Oops, sorry. And so art school, it was interesting for me because a lot of people complain about art school, that it sort of compartmentalizes them and sort of, it's a bit too structured and stuff. But in fact, and I'm not plugging art school, trust me, but I actually found my intelligence when I went to art school. I was raised to be a secretary. And I don't blame my parents for this. Well, I did, but I don't anymore. but being a secretary meant that I'd always have a job. And that I could look after myself, and I could also find a husband. So I'm of an age and stage where people still thought that was important, right? I'm the eldest of 4 girls. I have a wonderful grown-up son, 2 grandchildren, and I come from BC, born and bred in BC, but I also lived in England for 20 years or so.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you do any of your artistry in England at all?
I did a lot. So I did a diploma at Wilson College in Victoria. Fantastic. First year was foundation. Second year you got to focus a little bit. I went on to UVic, and then we moved to England. And gosh, if travel is anything, it's an educator. And I felt really fortunate to be there. And I used to apologize for not finishing my undergrad, but I think I got a much broader education by being in England to Europe. I also traveled to Asia, Australia, lots of opportunities there. So 15 years ago, I moved back to Canada, and interesting that I went to stay in Prince George where my parents lived. We always go home to mommy and daddy.
Of course,
right?
Yeah.
And I'm still there. So now I am artist in residence at Wood Buffalo, which is AKA Fort McMurray, but Wood Buffalo is a huge region and a beautiful national park in Canada. And I applied for the artist in residence, and I'm so grateful that I got selected.
That's wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit about what comes with your artist in residency and why it's important for these kinds of programs to exist?
Oh, fantastic. Again, living in England, there's artists in residence in hospitals, in industry, in accountant offices. They're everywhere. And because of course, the UK and Europe has a much broader art historical context. They understand more about the arts than, as my father put it, the wild, wild west in Canada, where the arts don't really matter here, kind of thing like that. But I know they do deeply. In terms of the work that brought me here, right, I'll just show you. Last year, I had an installation or an opportunity to create an artist book during the pandemic. It was commissioned by Two Rivers Gallery, which is located in Prince George, which is where I live. And that was in 2020. And the question was, what does an artist consider during a pandemic? And so during the pandemic, we were isolated. And I'm more of an extrovert, so I found it really difficult. And just even, what does an artist do? And I just like, well, I don't know. What does an artist do except get a hold of everybody that you know and say, let's have a conversation about that. And so that was 2020. In 2021, I was approached by the same curator to exhibit that book and to create a body of work around it, an installation, which I did. And I started looking at the wildfires. Prince George has not been touched, touch wood, with wildfire yet. It's likely to happen, but all around the surrounding areas we have. So there's lots of burn sites. And I connected with a couple of artists, or one in particular, and we went out to the burn site and did a lot of drawings. So the perimeter of the gallery, which is very big, had 60, how many did we have? 64? 64 wildfire drawings on birch.
Wow.
And then there was the book, which was 24 artists, as I said, but it's also like 20 feet in diameter. It's massive. In the center of the gallery, and then some crystal beads. It was really, if I don't say so myself, pretty beautiful. But it was up for 3 months, and then at the same time, same gallery, same curator, I was offered a touring exhibition. So although I've been living in Prince George for 15 years and totally involved with the gallery, which is super important if you're wanting to make the arts happen in your community, you have to get involved. And all of a sudden, I was given 3 major commissions through Two Rivers Gallery. And a commission means that you get paid, which is bonus, right? Which brings me to Wood Buffalo. Once you do something a bit big like this, and you just go, okay, now what do I do? So you start shopping around for an idea, or shopping around for what's going to happen next. And I applied for a few residencies. This is the second one I applied for, and got shortlisted and got in. You asked about what do you get out of it?
Yeah, like how does an artist in residence where a residency work? And like the thing is, I think that it's really important for people to know that this is available for you as an artist, right? For artists to be able to work and do work that is properly compensated, where you're taken care of, right?
Yeah, perfect. And also to be creative and to be experimental. Whereas if you're applying for exhibition, they kind of want you to have a body of work together before you get accepted. So the Artist in Residence program encourages artists to come who are shopping for an idea or looking to experiment with new materials. So, and this particular residency, not all of them, but this one in particular, all my expenses were covered to get here. My expenses are paid for and covered while I'm here. I had materials budget, I have workshop budget, and I get paid to do the workshop. I get this amazing studio. This is a full kitted out printmaking studio. Although I'm not a printmaker, I really appreciate having the access to, sinks that are this big, so I can soak my materials and stuff. So anyway, that is what I'm getting. Not all residencies are as generous, but I'm really grateful for it. So I get to be here for 3 weeks, and although I'm getting paid and there's expenses covered, the real gift is time. Because I don't know if I mentioned it, but I'm a worker bee. And worker bees, you kind of have to, you work 8 to 4, 5 days a week at a college, which I love that work. However, you don't get sabbatical and you don't get admin leave, so you pretty much have to take it on during your holiday time. So I was telling somebody about being an artist with a full-time job, and it's kind of like I never really stop working. I have 2 jobs.
Yeah.
One helps to pay the bills, and the other one feeds my soul. So.
Yeah, yeah. I think like personally, it's really important for artists to be able to have the opportunity to do both in one, like to be able to do something that feeds your soul and also feeds you in the first place, right? And having programs that are getting closer and closer to that kind of an offering is amazing, right? Because artists are a huge part of our community. And a lot of the time when you need someone to kind of give you something that feeds your soul, something beautiful to look at, even in just your home, in your office space, you know, the artists are the ones who provide those things for you, right? And that is going to live in your space for forever, really, at that point. It's made to last forever. It's made for you to enjoy it. It's made for you to look at it and just, you know, just let yourself feel, right? And I've noticed a lot of your work is here in our background right now, and I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about just some of the botanicals that you have going on here and how you've managed to put these together.
Yeah, part of the project, the Two Rivers Gallery project, was about my place, where I live, my sense of place. And so that theme, so to speak, continues here. And I have this wonderful dog, and I go walking every day. And so I'm outside every day in all weathers. And this spring, it was late incoming, northern central British Columbia. It's cold. It was cold and wet. However, the grasses and the meadows and the forests were just thriving. So I started looking at the botanicals that are surrounding us, but not necessarily the ones in the garden. I was looking at the weeds, or the noxious weeds, so to speak. So the images that were just panned over, those are tansy, and they're just some drawings that I started when I got here about tansy. And then there's actually, if you look over here, there's a wonderful, look at the height of these plants. It's just magical. And these come from the river. The hotel's on the Clearwater.
Yeah.
So in Fort McMurray, it's the Athabasca and the Clearwater. And I found out last week that it's fed by 7 different contributing waterways. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
This is goldenrod. I'm just about to open a goldenrod piece that I haven't done goldenrod yet. Obviously, this is the daisies. I met a wonderful woman at the community garden, and she's gifted me daisies. These are poppies that were gifted to me by the community garden. These grasses are outstanding, and they print beautifully, and I'll show you a couple of those when we go into the exhibition space. And then, and I have some willow as well that I'm going to unwrap. So these are the materials I'm using, very lightweight cottons. They go through a mordanting process, which is aluminum acetate. It's all sort of inert. Mind you, you have to glove and just to protect your skin a little bit. And then also calcium carbonate to put a surface on there so the botanical can adhere. These are really gorgeous tea towels, same in the same process. There's also paper in the background, which I'm just starting to get finishing off with the mordanting process with those. Believe it or not, use soy milk.
Oh, really?
Is part of that process. Oh. I know. I did a workshop online. Instagram is all over botanical printmaking, and it's sometimes called eco printmaking.
Okay.
So it's all using nature, and so there are a few courses out there, and I highly recommend following a person, and if you like their work, just to click on one of their workshops, just to get going if you're interested. So the materials in the background on the wall over there, those are my tests before I left home, just so that I had kind of an idea about what I might get up to. And most of them, the the middle one, that's roses from the garden. And then the one on the right is wildflowers. And then the one on the left is just muslin.
Just beautiful.
Or no, it's not even muslin. It's cheesecloth.
Oh, really?
The cheapest material going. You know, the stuff that you
Yeah.
make jam and jelly. Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you make jam
Well,
and jelly?
I watch people make jam and jelly
Okay,
online.
well, that's the best answer. But and then here are a few test pieces that I did on paper. This is some Solomon seal, and then look at that. This is just grass.
I just like the
grass.
sound that it makes too.
The grass is beautiful. And then what else?
Oh, this piece is so pretty. I love that.
Yeah, and look, just the grass there, and this is Solomon seal, and then there's one here. There we go. Look at that.
Oh, that piece, yeah, that's,
Yeah.
oh, it's gorgeous.
And look at the blues in there. And this was dyed in a willow birch pot, which I'm just about to open. So let's go
Awesome.
have a look at that.
Definitely.
Just over here.
Okay.
And so, as I said, they're all natural, and
So this is probably a little warm. We'll just.
it's actually, yeah, it's warm.
Oh my God, that's
But after we get this out,
wow.
and then the camera can go inside, and it's literally, there's a piece of birch bark that I brought with me, and willow.
So the birch bark, that's what's giving like color?
A lot of the reds, yeah,
Okay.
and I think the willow too, which we'll soon see. This one is the iron pot. It's literally got rusted material below.
Oh, okay.
And that's what's made, the iron. This one is either a steamer or an iron pot as well. It's kind of interesting. You can see there's a slick on there.
Oh.
Yeah, a mineral slick.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
It also smells really nice. Like, I
Does
don't
it
know
smell
what.
good?
It's just like, I really like the smell, especially coming from here.
Yeah.
It just smells so, I don't know, it smells really nice and fresh. It's almost like something that you would want in your room, like a candle of some sort.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
I really like those
Interesting
kind
that
of
you mentioned that today, because Hannah, who's the program coordinator for Wood Buffalo, she's from Sweden, and she would talk about her grandmother rinsing her hair with birch water, and so she knows this smell.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she grew up with this smell. So I won't unwrap that one right now because it's too hot, but if you come over here, I mean, look at this. Oh, beautiful table.
Even just like this, just nice space
I
to be
know,
able
it's
to do
beautiful.
this, right?
Okay, so it'll just take a minute to. So this is one of the shawls, and it's been folded a couple of times, and then I took all the cotton off. So if you want to just
I'll
keep
just
going
continue
with that.
this. Wow, this is so cool.
And so this one has been in the iron pot. And it has, so if you grab the other end, we'll just pull this part up.
Yes. Oh, it smells so good too.
Does it smell good?
Yeah,
Awesome.
I really like that.
And then this has a barrier on it. It's still very soft. And then we're going to open this way. Yep. Okay, and then we'll just take that guy away.
Wow, that's
And
beautiful.
then this one goes
Opens
this
again?
way. Yeah. Okay, let's lift it off.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh. Whoa.
Wow.
Oh my God, and that smells amazing too.
Okay. So look at those yellows, and that is from the goldenrod. That's goldenrod here, and then
See some of the flowers
this.
here too. You can
These are
literally see-
daisies.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at the daisy. So the daisy face down, so this is the back of the daisy. Does it resist? And then the daisy, just look at, there's a nice daisy.
Oh, okay, so that's
You
flipped
can
the other
see.
way where you the
Yeah, and there's
middle
one
that's in
here like that.
Oh, cool.
There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to lift these guys off. Oh, and look at that too. This is the stem has a resist on it. So I guess, you know, like the positive makes a negative.
That's so cool.
Beautiful.
I just love the way this like looks though. Oh, and if you look really closely, yeah, so that's another resist, right? Where
Yeah.
you don't.
Yeah. And so I think maybe it was in the pot a bit long, and that's why it's gone all sort of soft, and I think it's really beautiful.
I
now,
love it.
if you look here, this is the lines from the string that was wrapped around
Oh,
it.
cool.
And then here, some grasses. Interesting that those grasses don't really do very much. This is right along the river grass. I'd never seen it before. I don't know what kind of grass it is. And I'm learning a lot, but
That's so pretty. Just
okay,
to look
so
at.
if we just help me clear this off.
Yes.
Wow, look
Oh,
at that
whoa,
one.
that was cool. Even just like a leaf.
Yeah.
This one turned out different than this one did. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
And yeah, it's, you know, it's funny, the whole, you know, I said that I'm process, and I am process based. I mean, this is part of why I love doing this stuff, is because you never really know what's going to happen. One of the security people came in, and she said, "Wow, this is amazing." I said, "Yeah, I'm just learning it." She said, "You're just learning it? I can't imagine what it's going to be like when you get good." And I said, "Well, when I get good, I'll probably want to learn something else."
Check this one out. That's like one of the daisies.
Yeah.
I'll just like pull it off there.
Ooh,
It's so cool.
good
looking.
one. And so you can see the difference in the intensity of color here, because this is on the inside right next to the pipe. I use the pipe in order to have a weight, so it stays weighted. These are beautiful marks here. Okay.
This one really looks like a daisy in here. I pulled that one off, and it was like I didn't even pull, like it didn't even touch anything.
I know.
Just
the daisies are really strong. It's
gorgeous.
nice. Yeah. So, and I've done a lot. I've used a lot of different materials, like for people who are ceramicists or like to work in pottery. They may do raku firing. Raku firing is you have a clay that you go to biscuit, and then you put glaze on it, then you put it in a gas kiln, and then you take it up to 1,000 degrees, open the kiln, and then put the pot in some combustible material.
That's
And then
amazing.
it may explode, it may not, but it's always a surprise. You never really know what's going to happen,
That
right?
kiln magic, right?
Yeah, well, this is kind of kiln magic with
is.
soft materials. Look at those.
It's amazing. Yeah, some of the leaves, like you can see where they are, and
Yeah,
then some of the
real
leaves, they
definition.
were like a little different. I love this one. This one's really cool because you can
That's a
literally
really
see the
great
vein
one.
of the leaf.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of both, where you get the color and then, yeah.
Beautiful.
Oh, so
okay.
cool.
Okay. You can just put those on the counter.
Okay.
So should we go and put this into the exhibition space where there's some others?
Definitely.
And
Just going to cut ears.
here we go. Okay.
All right.
Okay, dokie. So this is the exhibition space. It's part of the Keanu Theater. So I've got a sort of a work in progress installation going on. And we'll just take this down into the space. And I'm going to suspend it from this part. So there's some there.
Yeah.
So can you get the steps? And then the blanks that are there. The installation is to encourage people to wander more, to go outside, to meander a little bit. We all get into go mode. Okay, here we go. We're going to do this together. Awesome. That's going like that. Okay. So
So sorry, we promise Rekka will be safe on this step.
I will always be safe. Okay, so you have them on the
yeah,
very
just
edge
there,
corner
right
here.
on the corner.
There we go.
Beautiful. Okay.
There.
Perfect. Come down and then just move it over there. I love that you're doing this.
Oh yes, I'm always happy to help.
Okay. And they have, there's a bit of tension between them.
Okay.
So. Okay.
I got to be part of it.
Always take some help. Okay, here we go.
Oh my gosh.
Interesting.
That is so cool to look at.
I love the intensity of color when the material's wet. Mm-hmm. And look at those lines. Those are kind of perfect. And so obviously it's a mirror, like it's almost like one of those Rorschach tests. You know, what can you see? And then, so this is Daisy. This is also Daisy. And this is what it'll kind of look like when it's dry.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really having a great experience with this. I mean, it's very processed or sort of procedural in order to get all the fabric and the paper together to get it ready to be printed, but when it's laying them out and or even gathering the or foraging in the morning with my sidekick Effie down at the river, and then she gets to go swimming. So if you're going to go on a residency and it's a long-term one and you're coming solo, I would encourage you to bring one of your besties, like your puppy or your cat. I think they're really great to sort of debrief with at the end of the day, but she's been really great for me. So the installation is, so my application to get into the residency was to talk about how we can marry text with a visual. And the text that I was thinking about and referring to for myself is text that I created during another residency at Island Mountain Arts in Wells, which is near Barkerville. And this text that I created, I've always thought that it sort of was, it was lacking in, like it just felt a bit clinical, you know, with it just being white. I mean, I love the sort of the eraser marks with the pencil and stuff.
You still get like that texture from a lot of that as well, which I'm definitely seeing, and I really, really like to look at, just to see like the pencil and then have the gold on top, like the final stamp on top.
This isn't gold. This is engraved. It's engraved in using a Dremel tool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so there's like a shadow. It kind of does look like gold.
It does, yeah. Especially with the lighting in here, it's a warm lighting, so it really, it almost has a shine to it.
Yeah.
Which is definitely why I thought that it might have been like gold. Oh my goodness, what?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
And so the text itself, as I said, the Island Mountain Arts residency was 1 week intensive. And so I brought my journal with me as a way of sort of I had no idea what I was going to do, about having some material to get started. It's kind of like doing the tests before I came here. And the journal was from when I had pancreatic cancer. And most of it was written during my recovery periods from chemo. The surgery itself, I had a Whipple. I don't know if anybody watches House, but every third or fourth episode, somebody's going for a Whipple, right? It's quite an invasive surgery, but that was 10 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. So the recovering from surgery was one thing. I just didn't have the energy. My body was fighting for its life, really. But then I had adjunctive chemo, which I wasn't happy with. However, the wonderful oncologist, she said, you have two choices. You either take the chemo and the cancer comes back, then you did everything you can. If you don't take the chemo and the cancer comes back, if you'd taken the chemo, would the cancer have come back?
Yeah, does it answer that question? You're going to be left with that question of, if I did it, would we be here?
Yeah.
It's always going to be that thing.
Yeah. And she calls it the path of least regrets. And maybe that's what we call this. This is the path of least regrets.
Yeah.
That's kind of beautiful. See, I keep touching my mic. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, but that is. It's absolutely
I think
beautiful.
thank you
Yes.
for this. That's how things come up, right? So the writing was it's verbatim from that journaling. And when one is in a zone, whether it's a creative zone or a recovery zone or just sort of zombie zone, which it felt like with chemo, I believe that the creative process comes through us. I don't think it's by us, it comes through us. I mean, if you think about just what we did, it was in partnership with water, in partnership with the elements from the earth, the weeds that are growing or the wonderful plants that we're surrounded by. And I get to do this. So there's all sorts of things coming together. And it's just that I had an idea, that's all, that I wanted to play with this idea. So the work, I'm really pleased that the work sort of fits in. So I think it really does marry. So rather than painting on top of this, which is, it's incredible how compelling that feels. Like you think you ought to do that.
Like it needs more. There always has to be more when you can just let it live. Let it live as its own, and maybe, exactly what you've done, accompany it with more things that can live on their own the way they are. And it's just really wonderful to see that, for sure. I think you mentioned a little bit about some of the exhibits that you have done that kind of have brought all this work together. And I think one of them I had read about was the coming of age one, right?
That's right, yes. That was part of the Two Rivers Gallery, which was centered around the Covidian Garden Party. So the title of that main installation was The Covidian Garden Party, A Coming of Age. And so a coming of age has a lot of connotations. The Covidian Garden Party, the story of a vision that I had while I was recovering from surgery, like 2 days, rather under the influence of
everything,
hydromorphine, really, and I was having visions, and which was incredible, but it gave me another perspective on people who have those visions all the time, which would be awful. But part of the vision was I was going across the landscape in a hot air balloon, and I recognized the landscape, and it was England, and it's the downs in England, the pasture land. As you know, there are not many trees in England, so it has a completely different feel than Canada. And so I recognized the landscape, and we're floating over, and it's really beautiful. And I'm there by myself in this beautiful white hot air balloon. And then we're coming over a village, and then the basket goes down and lands gently in the back in a garden.
Oh, wow.
And I get out of the basket, and there's all sorts of people there. And I start waving, and everybody's very friendly. Everybody's having a lovely time. And I recognize them all. And they me. And everybody was dressed in white. And everybody looked stunning. They were all having a wonderful time. And I walked up to a table, an old table, and the curator's wife was there, who at the time, this is 10 years ago, I hardly knew. And she just basically said, "Hello, darling. Would you like a glass of sherry?" And I said, "Oh, yes, thank you. That would be lovely." And one of those little teeny tiny sherry glasses that if you banged it against your teeth, it would shatter. And we just sort of smiled, and I walked away with my sherry. And then I ran into a friend, Carolyn Holmes, who happens to be the programming director at the time. She was the ED when all of this came to fruition, but and we sort of hugged, and we looked at each other, and we have a great relationship. And I whispered in her ear, and I said, Carolyn, it's time for me to go. And she goes at me, and she goes, oh, Kat, you can't leave yet. There's too much work to do.
Oh my gosh.
So that is the basis of the Coviding Garden Party. About, this is work. This is my work. I've got a lot of work to continue, and so at that point, that's when I knew that it's going to be okay. Yeah, I know.
I was getting.
I know. Sorry.
I was getting a little warm.
I know. Do you know that those kind of stories, you can't make them up.
No, you can't.
They're
You really
real.
can't.
I mean, the really good ones, you can't. They're real.
Yeah.
So that whole installation was about, this is a year later from COVID, we found out about COVID. There were 21, and at the time when I created the work, 21 is a coming of age, and it was all about my grandmother, and I had 63 linen tea towels. I'm a bit of a fabric person, I must admit, but the fabric was a story that was relatable to my Northern Irish grandmother, who in the turn of the 19th century, 20th century, her father mysteriously died. This is Northern Ireland, and when a mama with 3 daughters, there's no social services. So everybody was put into an orphanage. And when my grandmother and her siblings were old enough, they were put to work in the linen factories.
Oh my gosh.
That supported basically the Northern Irish linen manufacturer were people who were destitute for work. It was almost like the workhouses. And so the tea towels are Irish linen, and they're from a project that I did in 2000, 200 Irish linen tea towels. So my portfolio is very layered, but it's always biographical in a way, like this story about my experience of walking. So there's more layers to that, but it's pretty much the crux of the story. So it's a coming of age, depends on where you're at in your age and stage. I'm verging 65. Incredible. And I can't believe it. I still feel 36. But it doesn't matter what age you are.
No, and I think that's really important for people to understand, is that no matter what age you are, it's not about whether it's time or whether it's late for you to start doing something, start learning something, right? And to constantly be experimenting. Like you said, you were just learning, what you were trying to do here with a lot of the prints here, and having the botanicals pressed on with birch water. You're learning, you're experimenting, you're testing. And one of the pieces in there that you were saying was on cheesecloth. Absolutely gorgeous. How wonderful would it be to have pieces like this literally kind of hung against the ceiling? Just you want to lay back after a day and just be able to just look at something, right? Especially for people like me who are a little bit, sometimes I like to be outside and I need to be outside. And sometimes I just want to be inside, surrounded by all my plants, surrounded by things that are just beautiful to look at, and I can't stop looking at some of these pieces, like this one here. And this is one of the tea towels that you were talking about?
This is actually linen, Irish linen, and it's a serviette or a napkin. And so I've hung it this way specifically so that when people come up to it, they have to go like this, and they have to touch it.
Yes.
And so this is bird's foot.
Oh, cool.
A little teeny tiny flower.
Oh.
And then again, it's been folded. And I'm probably reading a bit too much into this. However, when I first started on the journey, it took me 4 days to get here. I took my time. I just was seeing butterflies everywhere.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, and of course, butterflies, the symbolism of that is transformation.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And so all of these, and most of them that I did, the prints when I first got here, were creating this. And so I'm just like, okay, take it.
And it's the like folding in half, right?
Yeah, it's just literally like the Rorschach, right?
Yes.
And so that would be the original print. And then when you open it up, you can see that there's...
It actually looks a lot like a butterfly print, to be
I
honest.
know.
You can kind of see that right here, especially.
Yeah.
The way it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and that's the beauty of this kind of work. You can see whatever you want, whatever you need to see in it, right? And getting back to what you were saying about being able to have one of these pieces, I mean, I'd love to share that. I'd like to be able to take this sort of printing so that people can envelope themselves in it, and it becomes a wearable piece of art. I was talking to somebody, one of the other programmers here, and about, you know, the idea of textiles being considered craft rather than high art or fine art. The way that they're hanging or installed, just by definition of using installed, means that it is a piece of fine art. And also the piece of fine art it's a concept, it's an idea. But I also then want to go, no, we're just going to have this be an experience, and that's it.
Yeah.
You can take photographs, you can enjoy the experience, be in the moment, rather than having to attach kind of a monetary value. Being paid is good, but but to make it into a commodity is another matter altogether, which hence me having a day job.
Yeah. No, it's like it's amazing to be able to walk through the space.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if we just we'll take you out a little bit here. I mean, as Kat was saying earlier, you could start out at either end because of the entranceways, but being able to just walk through this and see how you move through the space, and just like being able to stand so close to it is like a whole experience in itself, and just being able to have that experience is amazing. And you know, take a little break to walk along the walls as well. It completely changes the way that you kind of think about art. I think I want to touch things, right? And we don't always get to touch things.
No, you're not allowed to.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to. And I understand, you know, the oils and the
on
acids in
fingers,
your
right?
hands, for sure. However, this is meant to be touched and loved, right? This is grass. Wow. This is grass.
I love the way, I don't know what it, but it just has this whole, it has a body in here. There's a body in this piece, and then there's like a ground. Yeah. Like it's almost like a portrait is what I'm seeing in a way, which is really cool, because you have like a sky almost. You have a sky, you have a ground, and you have the body is in that space, which I just love to look at and see.
And, you know, like technically, in terms of a clarity of print, they're very soft. And on one hand, I want to get it clear. And then on the other hand, I'm just really loving the liquid nature of it. I was lucky enough to be able to go across Canada to the East Coast. It was a tourist thing, it was great. But I drew the whole way in the plane, and I drew the waterways. This country has so much water. It's pretty phenomenal. And so these being liquid, the 7 rivers that feed the 2 main rivers here. Yeah, I could get into some politics about that, but I'm not going to.
It is pretty amazing to be able to see that, and then it's hard not to get into what we want to talk about sometimes. But you know, it's beautiful, and I think that's the most amazing thing about being able to consume art, from my perspective, of being able to see, you know, the commentary on our lifestyles, the commentary on what's happening during that period of time. It's so much more than what you see. It's so much more than a landscape. It's what that landscape can represent sometimes.
For sure.
Right?
For sure. And if you have a chance to get to know Indigenous peoples and their idea of a sense of place is embedded in their reciprocation of Mother Earth providing, giving gifts of food, water, clothing, air, and then the Indigenous people feeding back by harvesting with good heart, meaning not taking any more than 50%, gifting with tobacco or sweetgrass or a cedar sometimes as well. And even if you don't have anything to gift, you can give a little bit of your hair.
Oh, wow.
And it's just taking a moment to recognize that this is a gift, and then it's sort of the cycle continues. And yeah, so I've been really clear about that for myself. But yeah, I have a lot more to do. Yeah. So, and then this one here, this is also another one that is similar. It has, this was, I believe it was tansy, and you can see some of the marks of the leaves here and here. This is, this beautiful, it's like, I think it's from the, and here's some more there. But again, it's completely different than the others. And it's the same process, same timing. Yeah, it's all really kind of magical.
It's amazing to see the different colors that can come out. And as you're saying, it's the same process, but you're getting something completely different.
Yeah.
Right? It's almost like you can treat everything the same as much as you want, but things are going to always be different.
Right. And it depends on the time of day, my energy level, how hot the dye pot is, how wet the fabric is, and which is also the magic of it all, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's just such a wonderful space to be in. And honestly, even though you have some of these pieces just to block out space, as you were saying earlier, it's wonderful to see what to kind of expect for movement-wise and how you can move through this space. I think we were talking earlier about how it's like a path, it's like a trail that you get to walk along and kind of discover pieces of nature in different ways, right? You can go on the same trail as many times as you like. It's going to be somewhat different every time, especially after it rains. Maybe if it's been really warm, maybe that season hasn't given you as many flowers or fruits, but it's so cool to see and walk through the space and just get those different feels. And, you know, all of these pieces look completely different. And then even seeing this piece wet versus the rest of them dry is so it's just so cool to look at. And for people who may not be extremely experienced in the arts, this is still something that you can like just literally feast your eyes on and be able to, you know, start your learning, start your experience with consuming art and observing, you know, what is around you. And I think it's extremely important that it's accessible, right? You're able to come here if you live in the Fort McMurray community or if you live somewhere in Alberta and are looking for a wonderful place to explore. So far, Gabby and I have been to so many great places you've seen in our other live streams just in Fort McMurray alone, right? We've been to a different place every single day, probably even twice a day, and we've been able to try different things, and being able to experience art right in the community is huge, right? That's something that I feel like most people, even for me growing up, I thought, well, if I want to look at art, I have to go to a different city. I have to go to a different country to experience this. I can only go to the most famous places because those are the ones that we hear about. Those are the ones that are accessible. But then you can come here to Keano College and be able to like really experience art personally and learn get to meet the artist even as well,
Yeah.
which is wonderful. Kat, can you tell us a little bit about this exhibit here in Kyoto and tell us about like how long it's going to be on for?
It's literally a work in progress exhibition. I started hanging or designing the hang literally with the materials day before yesterday afternoon, late. And so over the next 10 days or so, I'll just keep creating and hanging and possibly moving some things around. And so unfortunately, it'll be down by the 29th. Okay. So, but there will be a reception on the 28th, and where I'll talk a bit. And then the other artist in residence, the Indigenous artist in residence, Colin Wolf, will be also doing a performance piece. So I think it'll be a really full evening of creativity. One thing I really wanted to add about people who are just starting to get into the arts and maybe see them in a broader context rather than, you know, an image or think a watercolor. Like I have a lot of artists, or a lot of people will say, what kind of artist are you? What do you do? And I'm just like, I don't really know. But I'm a conceptual artist. So as I said, it's the idea first, and then whatever materials I want to mess around with or play with. But I'm a real advocate for arts as wellness. The arts, visual, music, theater, ceramics, play. When one is engaged in a making process, knitting, crochet, sewing, then one is in the zone. And the zone is a meditation. So if you go at making art, like I'm going to make a piece of art today or right now, then you're already set yourself up for failure. And I use this as an analogy. If you think about Tiger Woods as the golfer, there's no way that a golfer of his caliber or anyone else for that matter goes up and says, I'm going to hit that ball square, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. No, they just empty themselves, they go into the zone, they're not thinking about anything, and they're just hitting the ball. When you decide to start playing with the arts, try and release yourself from any pressure of looking for an outcome. Easy to say, more difficult to do. I'm giving a workshop. I gave one in Anzac last week, and I'm giving one this Saturday here in Wood Buffalo at Fort McMurray, and we're going to be making artist books. So, but we're going to be looking at the tricks of the trade to get started. So we're going to use printmaking, digital transfer, writing, visualization, and everybody will come away with a piece of work, an artist book. Not a book about an art piece, it's an artwork in itself. So it's a really great accessible way of creating something, having fun with it, not having the pressure, right? So it's tough, but it's what keeps me well.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's wonderful. That's such a great way to like invite people into the space and show people like you're included in this. This is something you can do. This is something that can literally just be fun, just to try out and, you know, learn from someone who's here for a short period of time, but for a great time. So
That's me.
Thank you so much for bringing us into your space and sharing a little bit about yourself and about your work and your process. It's been wonderful to talk to you. Is there anywhere where people can find you, I guess like on a website or social media and anything like that if they want to interact more?
Yeah. So I have an Instagram and I have a website. They're both my first name and last name, all lowercase. It's Cat with a C. And then Sivertsen is not ideal. Hopefully it'll come up in a bar somewhere with the post-production of the video, although I know it's live and all that kind of stuff, but it's just catsivertsen.ca. And get an Instagram account. Forget Facebook. I know you need it for all the children and the aunties and stuff. And it's like, church and state. I don't use Facebook for my work. I use Instagram for my work because you can really filter and you can start looking at art making practices that are interesting.
Yes.
That's where this came from.
It is really cool to be able to look at, just like I personally really like to look at how-to videos. So just watching people in the process of making things is wonderful. So yes, for all of you at home, if you're looking to connect or if you're looking to see more of what Kat does, definitely check out her Instagram and yeah, give her a follow because you do some wonderful work and it's great to be able to see it.
Oh, my pleasure.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for checking out the live stream. You guys have a great evening. This has been R from RNG in the 780, and we'll catch you guys next time. Bye.
Hello everyone, we're back here. This is Gabby, the G in RNG in the 780. We would be remiss if we talked to the artist in resident, but did not talk to someone from the actual Arts Council of Wood Buffalo. So, with me here today, I have Sharon Heading.
Correct.
Got it, nailed it. And you are the head of, it was partnerships?
I am the partnerships manager for
Partnerships
Arts
manager.
Council Wood Buffalo.
Perfect. What can you tell us about the Buffalo Arts Council?
We are the overarching body that looks after artists in this community. So that's kind of a grand way of saying we're the voice for the arts.
Nice.
It is nice.
Unless it isn't nice.
Yeah,
Hold on,
no,
okay.
it's great. The arts in an industrial town is, some people think, a conflict. For us, we know that in this town we have an amazing group of artists and an amazing multicultural community. We have all of these different things happening, different types of arts, different genres, and they need a voice, they need a place to be heard, they need a launch pad, and we're it. So we're 8 staff. We all work together to give the artists the support they need. We provide programming. Our programming is more around economic dignity. It's our nice way of saying people should get paid for what they do.
Ah, yes, that one, not an exposure, huh? I see.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
very good.
In our office, we like to say you can die of exposure. So
We've actually ended up coining the term e-bucks, and
Yeah.
so sometimes when I will ask a fellow artist, because I do film, I'm like, what'd you get paid on this? And they're like, well, e-bucks. And I was like, oh, really? You're still doing that? Eee.
yeah,
So,
we discourage it and we lead the way.
Okay.
We pay when we ask someone to do something, we pay Carfax. We encourage all of anyone who comes to us and says, hey, you know, have you got a singer? Can someone sing the national anthem? Can someone do a live painting? Can someone donate? You know, sure. What are you paying?
ah, okay.
And we will give you a list. We have an artist directory on our website, which is awesome, so people can go in and find. And any artist, we all feel passionately about something. I'm a visual artist, and there are certain things that I will every year give something to that cause because it's important to me personally, and that's my personal choice. But to have, you know, to give one of my paintings to every good cause, I'd have an empty studio and I wouldn't have a very happy banker.
Of course, no.
You know, and that's true for everyone. We all have things we're passionate about, and we should follow those. But what our job here, which is kind of a good segue for Arts Council, is to give our artists the skills to do that professionally. So the kind of programming that we do is around how do you price your work? Why should you have a business license? We partner with the Chamber of Commerce in delivering programs around just those things. We have our own small program that's geared to rural and remote communities called Getting to Sold, which is about taking your craft from, say, your kitchen table or your garage to the business world. So what does that mean? Why is that a good thing to do? We partner with other arts organizations to deliver things. We listen to what the arts community wants, and we do everything in our power to deliver it.
That's fantastic. That's amazing. You did mention the Chamber of Commerce. We would be remiss if we didn't shout them out. They are actually who put us in contact with you folks. So yeah,
Nice.
they spoke very highly of you. loved you, and hopefully it's the same love back.
Absolutely,
I can see it.
absolutely.
I wanted to ask you personally, and I know that like sometimes it's very difficult because like I'm from Edmonton, and often when I go and say
We like you anyway.
Oh, thank you. Oh, jeez. And often when I say, I'm doing the arts, they're like, in Edmonton, why don't you, go to Vancouver or go to insert name of faraway foreign destination. They never kind of really believe you can do the arts in Edmonton. Is that the same kind of vibe and energy here, or are folks more like, no, I want to do it right here in Fort McMurray, and here's why?
You know what? That's a really awesome question.
Well, sometimes, yeah.
I would say probably there's kind of two ways to approach it.
Okay.
One, we're kind of an island in the middle of the forest, and then we service other communities like, say, Fort Chipewyan or Janvier, which are like some of them fly in, also even more remote. So remote they consider us urban. So you can't have people and not have art. So it's not like where you choose to make that art and what opportunities are for you may say that, if you are doing a film that, needs to be in a desert climate, then you're not going to be in Fort McMurray. But even different that you can paint anywhere, you can draw anywhere, you can do digital work anywhere, you can write a play anywhere, right? So why would you do it in Fort McMurray or Edmonton versus LA? Well, because this is where you live, because it's affordable, and because there's a lot of creativity here. And when you are a creative person, if you seek out other creative people, I just find creative people create their own communities. So the other kind of fun thing about Fort Mac is that we have people here from all over the world. We're an incredibly multicultural community, and every person that comes to this community for work almost always brings a partner with them. And because of that, some of those partners have been the most amazing people. We had a violin virtuoso who was the head of the arts program at Keano College for like 20 some years.
Wow.
Okay. Why here in Fort McMurray? This is where he landed, for any number of reasons. And as a consequence, gave guys that I know who work on site as tradespeople violin lessons, not fiddle lessons, not whatever, violin lessons, right? So we have opera singers born and bred in Fort McMurray making a living as opera singers today who, out of their passion for having grown up here and supporting the arts, come back and do workshops on opera that are fully attended.
Wow.
Those aren't things you think about when it comes to Fort McMurray. Now, legitimately post-wildfire, we bled artists like it was insane. And that makes sense because we all know artists don't make mountains of money. So if you were here as an artist and you were able to either do your work full-time or even part-time because you had a partner who worked on site, so they make really good money, which gave you the flexibility to pursue your artwork full-time. Or there have always been lots of jobs in the service industry here. You could make a lot of money working in a bar or a restaurant here, which are typically often jobs that an artist has so that, as their side hustle, so they can pursue their art. A lot of those jobs dried up after the wildfire because a lot of those businesses died.
Oh, no.
And this is an expensive place to live. So we lost a lot of those great people. However, there are still a lot of other great people left behind who are very determined to make a future for themselves in the arts here. And interestingly enough, when I came here almost 20 years ago, there was a thriving arts program at Keano College. It gave me a reason to come here. I knew there was an arts community. There were courses I could take. I could have that side of my life fulfilled. And at that time, this was a very, very wealthy community. It was the peak of boom, insane amounts of money. And we all like to think that was because we were so clever, but it wasn't. So now, all these years later, we're not a boomtown anymore. We're a community that's surviving 3 disasters, 2 natural and 1 economic.
Yep.
And now Back then, when we had lots of money, we had the art center here at the college, but you couldn't get anybody to donate money to the arts. You couldn't build an art center. You couldn't, what was here was good enough. And it was good.
Okay.
But now we have no art center. That part of education has disappeared through budget cuts. Now we have the Arts Council Wood Buffalo, which didn't exist before. We've just had our 10-year anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
So thank you. So what happens now? Now when we have less money than we've ever had before, we have the first third of a $15 million capital campaign through the door with a unanimous approval from City Council. So,
I am going to expand on this and ask, I'm sorry, is there a $5 million project that is happening? And what is that?
A $15 million
Oh, wow,
project.
okay, even better. We like those numbers.
Yes, $15 million to take an abandoned landmark cinema building, a small six cinema building, and turn it into an arts incubator.
Oh, wow.
I know, it's pretty exciting.
I'm trying to picture even like, how you can do so much.
I know.
Okay, hold on. Okay. Well, I was gonna say, how do you take a movie theater knowing that how much they suffered during the pandemic? So I'm gonna skip that part because we know that was difficult. But how did you come across the idea of, this site and we're gonna take it and change it into that?
Well, first, we always knew that there was a demand.
Okay.
We'd had several studies. I mean, this town has been studied to within an inch of its life. There's lots of public consultation within the arts community, outside of the arts community, in the community as a whole. So we know, and we have all of the legit data that says that there is a demand for a landing spot for the arts. And it currently doesn't exist. We have these artists, and we like to support local artists, but they don't have any place to do their work.
Okay.
So post-wildfire, we looked at an arts recovery project because, as we mentioned earlier, the whole exposure thing. Post-wildfire, there was a lot of demand on local artists. So if you can imagine, we've all done it. You're doing a fundraiser for something, and you want every possible cent from that to go to the good cause. So who's going to donate their music? Who's going to donate their sound system? Who's going to donate their goods and services for an auction or whatever? So post-wildfire, we had all of these artists, many of whom literally, and I know 2 artists personally, who went out the front door of their house with what they could carry, and one of them their dog and the other their dog, cat, and baby, while their house was burning behind them. This is no joke. So their studio, their full life's work, everything went up in flames as they drove down the road. So then we go to that person and we say, hey, how'd you like to donate your services for this project we're working on for all those poor people who lost their homes?
I imagine those talks didn't pan out as well as you would
As you
think.
might have imagined.
Yeah, okay.
But even for all of those people that didn't lose their home, they lost their livelihood because the bars closed and the restaurants closed, and at a post-wildfire, people were focusing on getting back into their homes. So there wasn't a lot of focus on, gee, I need a new painting for my living room, or I love that sculpture. So what we knew and what a Red Cross study had told us was that we needed recovery. We needed to help those people as much as we needed to help people who had lost their homes. And they were often people who had lost their homes. So through Red Cross, there was a project, the Arts Recovery Program, which I was responsible for, where we said, and there were 3 objectives after a survey that showed us what was needed. And we were able to meet the first 2, but the third, which was a place to do your work, still didn't exist. Then we looked into, lots of hard work. We found a program called IRP, which is the Investment Readiness Program through the federal government, where the government correctly recognized that in the not-for-profit sector, which we will call the social profit sector, there were a lot of organizations who were small, and just on the verge. They knew they needed to grow. They knew there were more services they could deliver. There was a demand for those services, but they couldn't make that leap to get there without going with a begging bowl. I need more money. Give me more money. This is why.
Yes, the grants process is
it's
flattering.
Yes, it is. It is indeed.
Yeah.
So wisely, if you could make a good case, and we're very good at that, you could get funding to prove that you actually needed that you were ready for someone to invest in you to make that next step. So we were one of the only organizations that were fully funded in our request, which was funding for a feasibility study for a project that would be a building. We didn't know what that building would be yet, but a building that would be our launch pad. We engaged Akron Engineering, who's a local engineering firm, and they did an extensive, I would say exhaustive study, including a SWOT analysis of organizations similar to ours that were like a spoke and hub model where we're, so like I say, Fort Chipewyan, where for whatever reason that you have an urban area that supports a series of more isolated areas. So Sea Space in Calgary, which is an amazing organization, that's a social enterprise. They provided us with just every piece of information. They were so generous. So the bottom line was we knew that a couple of things. We knew what we wanted and needed. We knew the community wanted and needed it. We needed to know if we could build it and then sustain it. And that's where a social enterprise comes in. So we believe that the goal is to not always go with your begging bowl, to be able to sustain yourself through the services that you provide, or a big chunk of it. So using that model, the bottom line on the feasibility study was, yes, we can. It's very viable. And in the process of getting all of that done, it's kind of like a cartoon. I was literally driving down the street past Landmark Cinema. I have a background in real estate, so I'm always watching.
Okay, yes.
And so I was always looking for just the right building. I knew exactly what we needed. And I drove past the abandoned cinema, literally slammed on my brakes.
I was going to say,
it was just like, call my boss, I found our building.
Oh, wow.
Called the company that had it listed. They got us in the next day. We had to look around. Our minds were already swirling. This could be here. This could be there. This is big enough that we can make it work. We can expand it. There are possibilities for income right away. We were pretty excited. So that's year, maybe more than a year by the time the feasibility study was completed on that physical building. So then we engage things like, because we're a new town, we're not that old, we don't have the historic buildings that Edmonton has, right?
Wow.
So, no, seriously, like our historic buildings are in our destroyed Indigenous history. There's some things there we shouldn't be very proud of.
Yeah.
So if we look at the town itself, I don't know, you could probably find some buildings that are 100 years old. Maybe.
Okay.
I once sold one that was 90 years old. Back where I grew up in Nova Scotia, there are trees on my street older than the houses in this building, so in this town. So Landmark Cinema, should we tear it down? Right? So should we tear it down and just use the land? Why should we build something new someplace else? That site is so perfect in so many ways. One, we can rent it. It's a good solid building. It's brick, right? The HVAC is good. There's no basement, so there are no flood issues. We've had floods all around it downtown. There's never been water in that building. There are 2 parking lots, one on either side. So, if you have event space, and actually one across the street, if you have event space and you are getting licensed for event space, then you need to have parking or parking nearby. So not only do we have parking, but we have the ability to raise money from that parking because there's a demand for parking downtown. So when we looked at the 6 cinemas, people kept coming up to us, and I felt like saying, like, do I look like I've lost my mind? Because I haven't. They would say things like, well, you're going to need to level the floors. And I'm like, clearly you are not an artist. Clearly you have no imagination. Why would we level the floors? Like, why wouldn't we build something interesting off those floors, and then we have that unlevel space to pop cables and vents, and we don't have to build things in the ceiling, and like, duh. Take out the chairs, leave the floor the way it is, and oh, by the way, it's perfect wheelchair access.
Oh, right, because the cinema's always, oh, wow.
So
look at that. Okay,
we're, you know, we're winning on every corner with what everyone else is looking at as a problem. We're seeing no problems.
Yeah, they're like, these are all solutions. I don't know what you're
It's
talking
like-
about. And they're like, well, we're done here. Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
Okay.
And, you know, one of the parking lots can become a downtown outdoor event space for the summer. You know, easily done, because you've got the other 2 parking lots to support it. So there were just so many things, and we started looking at, okay, let's assign those rooms. So this room can become a black box theater. This room can become a culinary arts space, because one of the things, we have a huge demand, we have such a large multicultural community that cooking classes are, well, cooking, it's the new thing, right?
It's the new phase. No,
Yeah,
no,
no,
it's great, yeah.
Yeah, it's like having a pool in your building. Whether or not you actually use it, you want it to be there, right?
That's fair. That's a
It's
fair
that kind of
analogy,
thing.
yeah.
But then there's also, there's really no place locally to access the works of local artists. We did have a gallery that closed after the last flood, unfortunately. But there's no place that doesn't take a large commission, right? So we can have a gallery and a shop. We don't have a formal gallery in town. So there are all of those things. Then how about, as a visual artist, if I work with anything toxic, I can only work on it in my garage in the summertime with the doors open.
Otherwise, you're passing out very
Right?
quickly.
You're passing
I
out from the
imagine.
fumes,
Yeah.
you're killing, like, people
Yeah.
have a dim view of you knocking off your family members in the interest of art.
Yeah, I've heard of suffering for your art, but that's,
Yeah,
all right.
exactly, new level.
Okay.
But I joke, but it's serious.
no, of
I mean,
course.
if you work with resin, and we have a couple of resin artists in town who fortunately have rigged up studios for themselves. But if you work large, for example, I do one particular project where I do a 6x6 canvas of poured paint. That takes a lot of room. And if I don't have a heated garage, which I don't, that means I can only do those pieces in the summer, which means no commissions. Even for my other stuff, several of my friends who are visual artists, there's a group of 5 people I know that all paint together, and every single one of them except one, who uses a chunk of her basement, all have the equivalent of a spare bedroom for their art studio.
Yeesh, that's...
And these
Yeah.
are all artists who are actively selling their work. And it's not that we haven't tried to get that space. It doesn't exist. Or if it does, the cost per square foot
must
is...
be, yeah.
And they're not purpose-built. There's no ventilation. There's no, safe disposal spot, all of those sorts of things. So we can have an area that's just a series of small studios, and you don't have to rent it for the year.
Yeah.
If you have a project that takes 3 months, you can rent it for 3 months. We'll have a series of glass studios on the front of the building. We haven't decided if it will be 2 or 3 that will make you, if you're walking down the street and you are not involved in the arts, maybe it's a little intimidating.
Oh.
Maybe it's a little like, oh, how many times? I can't draw a straight line, I can't draw a stick man. Nobody wants a straight line or a stick man. Like, let go of it. But there's a certain intimidation. Like, I'm not going to get on the ice with Gretzky. It's, there's that sort of like, oh, I don't know, I might look stupid, maybe my work, like that comparison thing. But if you're walking by a space and you see some of the process, you don't see the amazing finished product, but you're going for the bus today and you see the rough line, or you see the piece of wood that hasn't yet been carved.
That's right.
Or you see something that's partially welded, right? And then a few weeks later you see it starting to take shape. Then that takes some of that intimidation factor away, where normally if there was a sign that said, come in and see our artist, you're very likely not going to. But if you walk past and you've watched this process over a few days or weeks or whatever, and you see a sign that says, meet the artist, you're going to go in, right? It just works. So we'll take away that intimidation factor and give people a chance to see. And then we'll have a really fun center area that's just a kind of a giant circle with a camera over it. So there'll be a list. So the public will tell us what they want. Maybe Tuesday mornings you're whittling blue jays, you know, or Wednesday you're mending socks, or Thursday you're learning to bead the peyote stitch, or Friday mornings it's your watercolor class. Who knows? The public will tell us and we'll respond. And then that will be your place. It's a gathering place. Once more people from the outside will be able to see things that interest them. Kind of go from there.
Yeah, it's very fascinating that you mentioned that whole intimidation factor, because with everyone we've interviewed, anyone I've worked with, it's bizarre that almost everyone, unless you are on the psychopath end of the spectrum, always believe and think, what the hell am I doing? Am I good enough? And like, there's no sense of belief or confidence in what they start, and they kind of build it as they keep trying and make it happen. So knowing that like folks are kind of like intimidated to go into these galleries, well, like everyone at some point began by going, do I want to do this? Am I doing the right things? Am I obeying these rules that exist? Are there rules? Aren't there rules? How does that go? And that kind of thing. But to have like showcasing, like, I like the idea of like, there would be a piece that isn't finished, and then as they go by that bust out every day, it's like slowly being formed and molded to give them that sense of like, these things take time, and you know, there's the old saying of anything given time, and if you commit a lot of time and hard work to it, you will get better at it. So giving them that perspective instead of like, I dropped out of the sky and I know what art is, and this is in and this is out, and you know, and you somehow have to know this when you come into a museum or a gallery, which isn't true. It's not true ever. You can go in there and I like to say it's, how do you feel about the pieces? Absolutely. And how do you feel when you walk around, and like, does it speak to you? Like, if the piece doesn't speak to you, that's fine. That's okay. Maybe something else will. But yeah, that's very...
If I could add to that, I think it's really interesting you said it, because it's so true. We're all artists. Every child we know is an artist until we tell them they're not.
Oh.
Right? It's true. Every little kid, you give them a crayon, a piece of paper, away they go. It's only when they start getting older and they start, as you say, comparing or wondering if it's good enough that goes off the rails. 2 points I'd like to make there. One is that just because you don't like it doesn't mean it isn't art. So if it's music, or we're more accepting of that in music for some reason, like, oh, I don't like country and western, or oh, I don't like the blues, or I only like the blues, or whatever, and we don't get weirded out by those statements. But if we see something visual that we don't like, then immediately we decide it's not art, which is a very curious thing. It's all art. Doesn't matter if you like it or not. And we don't, good or bad is relative, right? But an interesting thing that I discovered through this process, and spending so much time with artists and having the privilege to spend so much time through my work in the Indigenous community, is that we started getting people to look me in the eye and say, I am an artist, right? And it's, you know, it's like, I am an artist. And say, I can remember the first time I said it with pride, right? So I spend time with these amazing elders who are teaching me to make moccasins, to add fur, to take the old fur off my moccasins and put the new fur on, or a particular kind of weaving, or any number of things, visual art, drawing, whatever. And I'd say to them, it's wonderful, you are such a gifted artist. And they freeze. So these are elders who whose knowledge is valued and passed down, and you ask permission to share that knowledge if they teach you to do something. You wouldn't just go out and teach it because they have gifted you with this amazing knowledge, but they don't consider themselves to be artists. So one of the things that we're working on is our I Am an Artist campaign, which is to have people say out loud, you know, I'm an artist. Like this thing, you know, this person who makes these amazing cartoons, you are an artist. This musician, I am an artist. This filmmaker, this documentary maker, I am an artist. You know, it's not, I put paint to paper. I'm an artist.
That's very bizarre, but also interesting because it took me like, I've been doing kind of film for like 8 or 9 years, and I probably, like you said, formally said it maybe 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and I was like, I'm a filmmaker. Because prior to that, I'm like, I dabble, I do some things, I make some stuff. You may have seen it, and then it's bizarre because I don't know, like I had that feel of like, is it imposter syndrome, where I'm just like,
Very much so.
do I know what I'm doing? Do I know anything? Because once I got out of kind of like art school, I was like, there's no one to say you're doing well. There's no
more measuring stick.
Yes. So I'm like, so what is my basis for? Is it awards? Is it accolades? Is it the amount of money I make off of my work? Like, what is, which is, you know, how that is.
Economic dignity.
So what is, like, and you kind of like needed these, I want to say like set of achievements before I was like, now I can say. But the weird thing is that day kind of never really came. I was just like, look, I work in this community. They know who I am. I've been teaching classes. I've been, you know, doing a bunch of stuff. I think by now I can say this is what I do.
So think about it this way. If someone graduates engineering school, medical school, nursing school, teaching, whatever, and you ask them what they do, what's on their resume? I'm a teacher, I'm an engineer, I'm a doctor, I'm a nurse, I'm a plumber, I'm a whatever. We don't question it, we don't categorize it, we don't do anything like that. And that's how we need to approach the arts. It's that it is just as acceptable, it is just as professional. But to go back to the time of Leonardo da Vinci, when to be an artist, you had a patron. It was so respected that someone took you on, paid while you were doing your work to be associated with that amazing work you did.
Wow.
I mean, we're along, wouldn't it be lovely?
Yeah.
But
we should bring some things back.
We're doing this project called 90 for 90 to help raise money for the Arts Incubator, and we have 90 paintings, all of the same size, all on birch boards, and 90 artists are doing paintings, and they will sell for $90 each, and the money will go to the Arts Incubator. As each piece comes through the door, we're all super excited to go and see. A lot of the artists we know. Some of it we're doing ourselves because we are all artists. But we've also looked to the art teachers for who in your school, who are your arts champions in your school? Would some of these people like to participate? So some of the student art that comes back is mind-boggling and humbling in the truest sense of the word. Just amazing talent. But I picked up a piece that came in today, and people put their information on the back, and there's like a little alcove. And I looked at it, and the person, I said, whose work? Oh my goodness, whose work is this? Are they in our directory? Do we know them? Whatever. Flip it over, and they've done it beautifully. The marketing is exquisite. They have a little branding thing that's fabulous. And then on the branding, they put hobby artist. I was like, give me that number now, because I am going to call that person and tell them they are
remove
amazing.
Hobby. Yeah, remove hobby right now.
Let's just take hobby. You can choose to do whatever you want, but I am telling you that you have mad skills. And by saying hobby artist, it's almost like you apologize. You know, you don't say, I'm a hobby engineer.
Yeah, I don't go to a hobby doctor.
Let me sign off on your building. I'm a hobby engineer.
You know what you're doing, right? Like, on the weekends, I'm like, oh, great.
Okay, yeah, no, here, saw off my leg.
Like, no, totally. That's so interesting in that, like, we were just talking to Amy Keller-Rem prior to coming down here.
Fabulous artist.
Yes, and she was saying that she had kind of exactly that moment where you can watch that episode previously, but I'm just going to quickly highlight it, where she had an artist that she admired, and she had a bunch of like photos taken of her work, and she was too nervous to go up to him to show him that work. So her sister, thank you, grabbed her camera, meandered through, went up to him and said, "What do you think?" And of course he went through and he critiqued, and it was very positive. And he was like, "I would estimate that this person has done about 35 years worth of artwork."
Nice.
Turns out she was 16 at the time when she did that, so she got that like burst of kind of like confidence and everything, and went into kind of pursuing it and making it happen. And I wonder if that is one of the biggest things that's missing, is that we just need maybe a professional, some guiding hand to be like, "Look, you do good work. Just stop doubting
it's interesting.
yourself."
I think yes and no.
Okay.
So yes, and she's amazing
She's
artist,
wonderful.
right?
Yeah.
I can remember a point in Halifax. I noticed this artist, and they had an exhibit at the art gallery. I went in, I spent my first day, I came back the second day and brought my sketchbook with me and sat in front of a couple of pieces that particularly intrigued me, did sketches of them, and I couldn't get this artist out of my head. So, there's an artist bio with the show. I grabbed the bio, and on an impulse, I wrote him a letter.
Mm-hmm.
It was back in the day when you actually wrote a letter,
Yes.
right?
We
You
had
remember
mail.
those
Yeah,
olden days?
that's right.
So I wrote a letter saying how much I admired his work, saying who I was, and asking if he would look at my work. And I got a response. And loaded up, he told me what I wanted. I was living in Halifax at the time. He was living in the Annapolis Valley. Invited me to lunch and to spend some time in his studio. So he told me what to bring. So loaded into my little car, went off to his studio and laid all of my work out with incredible humility. And I had lots of room to grow at that stage. I was only really starting to take my art seriously then. And he just went through and asked the simplest of questions. And like you said, there was no, "Oh, you're a genius," because I wasn't. But he said things like, this painting, this big painting that you're working on, what made you want to do this? And I told him. He said, "Well, then cut away all the rest, because that's what you did best. We wanted that, it was a dock with a red painted door, and everything else was faded. I was just fascinated across the water that I could see that." He said, "Cut away the rest, because that's what your subject is." So that sort of triggered other thoughts that moved on. I always kept his generosity in my mind, so I'm always as kind as I can be to other artists. Now, more recently, I asked someone for a critique on my work, and there's someone who's a very well recognized artist whose work I respect, and I thought about his critique like going grocery shopping. I took what I wanted and the rest I left in the store.
I like that you began it with like, "Well respected, I admire them, I'm going to take what I want, and the stuff I don't want." Yeah, that's...
Yeah, but this person is very much like that themselves, right? So do I have tons to learn from that person? Absolutely. We have tons to learn from everyone, including the 5-year-old who just unabashedly does what they want, So, it just, you don't have to apologize. You don't have to rate it. It's not like American Ninja Warriors in your,
And like after each painting, there's like a panel that'll hold up numbers, and you're like, okay, nice.
It's like if you look around this hallway at all of the different art that's here, some of it you'll like, some of it you won't, some of it's printmaking, some of it's painting, some of it's representational, and 10 different people will walk down this hallway, and 10 different people will like 10 different paintings the most.
And we would show them to you, but I can't be bothered with clearances. So they're wonderful. Believe us, come down and see them.
But what I'm saying is that, it's also, what if we all had the same painting in our house? Wouldn't that be awful? It would just be, it would be the worst. So don't judge yourself. Don't judge other people. make the best of it. Take your joy where you can. Take your joy in creating it, whatever it is. You know, if it's film or visual or writing. I mean, where would we be without writers?
Yeah, no.
You know?
we found out one time it was terrible. I think it was like was it 07 or 08 where they had the writers strike all across the United States, and all these shows never happened because someone had to sign off, and the person who had to sign off on the scripts also had to be a writer. And since they were all striking, shows just went downhill, and it was a mess. And suddenly, like, that is what it took for folks to realize, like, my God, you don't just need writers for books, you need them for TV programs. And
Was that
like,
the beginning of reality television?
I think that was like, yeah, it's like, you know, take your wins and your losses, but like,
Yeah.
but that was that was one of the moments that like was so fascinating. And like there was another like strike for visual effects artists, because that kind of like impacted me a bit because I do a bit of VFX, and it was nuts to hear that folks were like, wait, so they don't pay you? I'm like, no. How contracts were for them were very exploitative, because they were like, yeah, well, we'll pay you when you're done. And of course, when they'd finish and send invoices and had bills to pay, some studios would wait them out, and then they're like, we know you can't afford a lawyer because we didn't pay you. You have no money. And so they had a strike to try to like earn that. Like, and it's fascinating. So many different, like, it always seems to be in the arts where they have to strike or unionize or do something to be like, hey, we still have bills to pay. We still need to exist here. Can you please give us the dignity of like paying us on time?
See, economic dignity.
Yeah, that's.
Back again, just think about, the arts have been at the forefront of political change since time eternal. So you think of Diego Rivera, one of the all-time great mural artists. The whole idea of a mural itself is part of the whole basically the union movement, the movement for the rights of workers that came out of that so famous Mexican artist. I mean, they're desperately trying to save some of his paintings now that they didn't even know were his, that are in amazing places. So the arts are where change happens. That's where change meets the world, because you can have, just think about it, back before printing presses, before Gutenberg, there were political cartoons, right? These little posters that would pop up all over town making fun of noblemen or politicians or whomever. Then came the printing press, and it became even more so. And you know, back before those times, you know, political satire and paintings. And now, I mean, posters and T-shirts and all of those things, those are all political statements, and they come out of art because you can make that subtle stab, right? You can start a movement that allows people to look at things in a different way and to build courage, right? So, and it starts with the poor, underpaid artist. You know,
I must suffer for my work artist.
So when you think about it that way, so what will be, I'm going to take advantage of the circle back to the Arts Incubator. So what will be beyond getting our community, because it is the community that wants this, 47.9% of people that responded to the survey on the needs specific to this building weren't artists.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were not artists. 47.9%. They were people who wanted this in the downtown. So what is this? We have always recognized that this building is the heart of downtown redevelopment. So we're a town that's taken a kicking. And our downtown, like so many small towns, is vacant in many ways, and it's hurting. And if you look historically, the association of the arts and downtown redevelopment is intimate and long-standing. So much so that post-Katrina flooding in New Orleans, once they made sure that people were housed and fed and that those most immediate tragic needs were met, that the first people put back to work were the artists, because they knew that that was the heart and soul of New Orleans, was entertainment in that district, and that's why people came to New Orleans. So give people, so that builds up those areas. which ironically in some of the bigger cities, so like Edmonton or Toronto or Vancouver, you have an area that becomes gentrified. You know, so the artists move in first, which is hardly gentrification, but you get the artists moving in first because there's inexpensive real estate, and they create this village, this community that people want to be part of, and it has services that people want and need. So they come and it grows, and the other services grow around them. So you don't just drop your child off for their Saturday morning or Thursday night lesson, or go to your own lesson, but you stop and you grab a kebab around the corner, or you go to this restaurant, or you do dinner and a movie, or you do those sorts of things, you know, or dinner and a play, or whatever. So that builds up around you. So then this area gets popular, and then the rents go up and the artists get squeezed out. And we see this in the newspaper all the time. So what we have in our magic area is that we're not renting. We are going to own that building. We will generate that around us, but we will still be able to take care of the needs of our artists because we will own the building. We're not going to be going with a mop handle holding up the ceiling and trying to keep a class while the water is dripping over here, you know?
Just holding everything down with duct tape. Yeah, it's great. No, like that's very fascinating that you say that, and that you're trying to take care of your artists, and it's such a difficult thing, and I feel like more folks now understand it. I don't want to say thanks to the pandemic. I don't want to thank the pandemic for anything, but because of the pandemic, so many folks had to consume like media, had to they wanted to add artwork because they were tired of the same four walls that they were staring at when the lockdown procedures happened. They wanted to read more books, they wanted to write, they wanted to do all this stuff, and I feel like many of my friends, that is when they realized, hey, arts are actually important and not just something that you do. And I'm like, yeah, I know. It's always been a thing. They've always been important. You need it. Believe me. Have you noticed that there was like that kind of shift during the pandemic that folks were, do you think that attributed to that 47% where people like, please, we need more art here. We need more kind of visual artists. We just need life back in the...
So think about it this way. What the pandemic did, in some ways, was like a slideshow I once did to show what happens when you take things away, right? So, there were fewer jobs. We'd had an economic downturn, we had a flood, we had like many things, and then the pandemic. So all of those industries that thrive in a town where people have a lot of extra money, which we always did, they died fast. So like so many communities, the restaurants closed. Anyone who was close or who had just opened or didn't have an established history, they were disappearing like crazy. And with them went those jobs. And a lot of people that had those jobs were our local artists. That was their side hustle, right? Okay. So a lot of that happened. So you start peeling away those sort of layers of the onion, and you very quickly realize that if you don't have the arts, all you have is a work camp. Right? So it's really that straightforward in my mind as an artist, of course. Yes. But if you think about it, so people were saying, oh, we shut down during the pandemic like other social profits, those that weren't dealing with, say, mental health issues. We had a staff member that started the day that everything was shut down. We all met in our office, and then we all went home for 2 years.
Wow.
And we did more programming during the pandemic than we have ever done, because that's what our community told us they wanted. That was a mental health issue. We had started working on a project with seniors and the arts to deal with isolation and the isolation. And this is a town where the average age is like 36. So it was like 20 something when I got here. So in the midst of all this, where we were recognizing we already had isolated seniors, and even more isolated in the rural communities or the remote Indigenous communities. And we were trying to match artists with seniors and elders to battle that. Well, we couldn't do it one-on-one because of the pandemic, so we didn't stop, we just pivoted. And I've never really liked that word, but we became the masters of the pivot during the pandemic. So we did this amazing thing where you're the resident senior and I am the delightful artist, and your name has been submitted to this program as someone who would like to participate, I spend time on the phone with you, which is a great concept for a senior and elder because they like a phone. It's a familiar, although
Piece of
I
tech,
did
yeah.
have one elder who just loved to text, totally threw me. But so I talk to you and I get to know you, and in the process, we become friends. Accidentally, but on purpose, you know. We develop this friendship. I want to know about your life and your interests because I'm going to create a piece of art that I'm going to be paid to create, and I'm going to gift to you when this is all over.
Oh wow, that's
So
awesome.
this gained national attention. It's an amazing program. So I was really lucky. I had 3 different seniors that I dealt with. One who I've only met once because she was in a remote Indigenous community in a lockdown seniors home.
Oh wow.
She was the most amazing lady, and she loved to text. And she was working. She did translation. And I created a work of art for her that spoke to her life. We had an elderly gentleman that connected with one of our local hip hop artists.
Nice.
And he became such good friends. They had this thing in common. This elderly gentleman made these beautiful boxes, but he was in early stages of dementia and was very concerned that he, you know, was only holding on to things for so long, and he couldn't make these boxes anymore because if he sold them, it interfered with his pension and all kinds of unfortunate things. So the artist that was involved with him, they became such good friends, and he was learning to woodwork, and they spent time together when pandemic lifted and he could go, and they shared stories, and he wrote a country and western song for him. I know, it's called Tiny Boxes, and I get goosebumps every time I think of it. There were those relationships on so many different levels, young artists, elders, seniors. I worked with one gentleman as an experiment when we first started. Said, how's this going to work? So we have a volunteer who works with us all the time. I call him Alan. His name is, hey, Alan, would you do an experiment with me? I'm going to make a work of art for you, but we're just going to chat and do this process. Sure. I thought I knew him really well. We go through this whole process. He's a photographer. And we got talking because I had been doing, as a result, I've been teaching him in a friendship that's come out of this. I now, once a week, he comes to my office and I give him a painting class because he wants to learn how to take his photographs and turn them into paintings.
Oh, nice.
Right. So, but in the process of, we go through and I have like, oh, before we go, Alan, I have one question. I didn't even think of this. Why did you take up photography? He said, well, I was a police officer, and this was long before CSI, and I was on the job visiting a crime scene with my boss, and he said, you're going to learn to be the crime scene photographer, and it isn't just taking pictures. The pictures have to tell a story. Here's the rules. Here's the camera.
That's so interesting and also terrifying in that, like, that's how you had to kind of begin, because it's like, this is a murder scene and you're taking photos. But the same token, that's exactly what, you know, the photos have to, when they
tell a story.
Yeah, tell a story, who done it, what's going on. But that's interesting that
So
was the, yeah.
Out of that, I created a pastel for him of magpies, because magpies are thieving. Can I say that?
Oh, well,
You can edit it out. And
that's a future me problem. Yeah.
I do battle with magpies in my yard. I have a very large yard. I have lots of birds. I attract birds. You know, I have 4 different kinds of woodpeckers, blue jays, little birds, all this stuff. Magpies come in, they destroy nests, they steal things. Have you ever seen a magpie nest? They're amazing. They have like a basement. They have like wattle on the bottom that's like cement and things woven in. So I worked some magpies, and the nest was made of things they'd stolen, including scene of the crime tape.
Oh.
And that was my gift to Alan.
That's awesome.
So those were the kinds of, and as I said, out of that now, once a week we sit and we do a lesson together. We're in a really busy time right now, so I won't be able to do that with him again until the fall, but he'll still he goes out daily on his walks and takes photographs, and if he finds one, like today he sent me a magnificent photo of a giant dragonfly that I'll probably do a painting from. So that's the power of art. So while everyone else was saying, oh, well, we can't deliver services, we were flat out doing this, doing virtual concerts, so that people, paying local artists so that people could hear these local artists, so they didn't lose their work. There was some really interesting drama things going on, some writing stuff, some other things that got pushed to the side. But man, we just went flat out. The pandemic became to us a very important time. And I think it really helped for the community to understand that for those that still had jobs and were going to work, at the end of the day, when they couldn't go out, those things that they needed, we were bringing to them in very creative ways.
That's fantastic. This is like everything you wish to hear that, an organization is trying to make happen to keep things kind of like alive and keep that fire going, because nothing's worse than when people don't recognize like you need the arts and you need it to be thriving, and then like the artists get squeezed out, and very quickly you start to see that area that used to be so full of like color, life, vibrancy and everything then just becomes this like, I almost want to say like corporate-esque, like not to take away from our wonderful sponsors, tell us, but no, like it almost becomes like this, like it's missing the very colorful and creative,
the heart
like
and
the life,
soul of
exactly.
It. We've been really lucky. The TELUS's, the Suncor, all of the different organizations that have supported us to allow us to make this happen. Our Indigenous Artists in Residency program, sponsoring all of these things, and they know when they get involved with us that it's going to be different.
Yeah.
Right, and I'm hoping that that's the reason why, because I'm sure my coworkers are sick to death of hearing me say it when we have a problem. I'm like, okay, guys, we're the arts. If we can't solve this, we should be ashamed of ourselves. Like, arts to the rescue. Like if we don't have the imagination to always be outside the box, then why are we here? We could be someplace else. Like, go get a job as an accountant, because, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but if you're in
we're going to add that very quickly. You guys are necessary too, but
not that there's anything wrong with that. Yeah. But no, seriously, like if you want, there's a really creative ad for a local accounting firm. Now that I think of it, it's like the whole point is that we are the arts. We have the imagination. We do everything we do is outside the box. So why would we hop in the box? Like, duh. Yeah. Like we're finding a way. When the raft is sinking, we're building new rafts over here that don't look like rafts. Right? It's what we do. Don't apologize. I don't apologize. I don't. Like, not for that. It's what makes the world a better place. That's the bottom line. Art is what makes the world a better place. This is what turns us from a boomtown into a hometown. It makes this a place. You say, why Fort McMurray, not Edmonton, not Vancouver, whatever? I say, why not? Like, we are an amazing town. We don't need to look to other people for benchmarks. We set benchmarks. Like, why do we have to? We're new. We're babies.
Oh,
like,
and that's...
It can be whatever we want it to be. You just have to believe that.
Honestly, this is very inspirational, and I'm loving the energy that you're carrying forward, and I imagine the rest of the team kind of carries forward, and to have that, like I said, it's interesting that when you have folks with passion that come together and they're like, we're going to change this, we're going to make this, and that's kind of like, I won't say that's all that it takes. Always there's hard work and lots of skills and luck, and the community kind of pushing and being supportive of making it happen. But once you have that and they push for a thing and it's like built, then folks are like, oh, like I feel like the same can be said when we got like our AGA, like Arts Gallery done. We got the museum right across. Like at the time, of course, everyone was like, what do we need this for? And then very quickly it's like, well,
why don't you have it?
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, well, where would you go to see like nice pieces and historical artwork and all this stuff? Like nowhere. You just want that to die out. And like as soon as like those happen to come in there, we started to get like skyscrapers. We started to get like local restaurants. Like it's very fast. Like I don't want to attribute it to thank them specifically and get their egos going, but like as soon as there was more functioning arts, like the theaters began to get renovated. Like this whole area became like an arts hub in Edmonton.
That whole arts district idea
Yeah.
is not a myth. It is a time-proven financial reality. So if you look at developers, I mean, developers should be salivating over that. No, seriously.
That's right, developers. Yeah, you heard it here
No,
first.
seriously. I mean, and I worked in real estate. We have two realtors, the seller and the person who's going to help us purchase, who believe so strongly in this project that they are donating significant chunks of their commission back to make this happen.
Wow.
This is like what's happening here is like we have this amazing team of people, and we really do. Like my energy comes from the amazing energy I have around me with this fabulous team that is Arts Council, and we have a reputation for getting things done. And it's because we do. We're like little mini bulldozers, you know? No, it's if we're not afraid, and legit, we're not this big organization. We're not this big tanker that has to tell 5 people before you can make a left turn. We're more like the little sailboat.
Yeah.
You know, I see a fish, whoosh,
Yeah.
there we are. You know, not like the big tanker that's like, fish on the left.
That's right.
You know, it's like, and that's our advantage. And we will always be cautious as we grow that we're not that big tanker, that we're paying attention, that our true value is in that we can get things done that other huge organizations can't, because one, we believe we can. Like we don't have all of these layers between us and success. You know, maybe we'll be so big one day that'll be the case. I hope I get to see it. But in the meantime, we have all the right pieces in place with all the right people at just the right time. And it's exciting. It's exciting to be part of it. This is the wave that I ride out to retirement, and I'm going to be happy about it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great piece to kind of have and go with. Now I'm kind of like, not that I wasn't excited, but when is the planned kind of
2024, we will open our doors.
2024.
2024, we will open our doors. So
Wow.
we have this, the building's there.
Okay.
We've already done the feasibility study on what, you know, the HVAC is solid. We know specifically we're going to have to engage experts, you know, to make each specialty room what it is. But think about it kind of like a Lego that's already in place, right? So you've got this big Lego building. Now we're just rearranging the Legos inside to make it what we need it to be. But we're also risk adverse, and we're smart with our money. So if we can, we won't open those doors until we have basically $9 million in place, because that means that we can proceed with no debt and start the work that has to be done. We can activate those 2 parking lots, which give us immediate income. We can start working on the offices inside that are going to be revenue generating for us. And then we can start one at a time to open those spaces. So if we only have enough money to open 4 of the 6 cinemas,
Then
so now what do we have? We have 4 active pieces, and we can just keep coming soon banners over those other 2 doors while I'm out there raising the
Making
next, and
things,
believe me, I will be shaking the money out of your pockets. I am little, but I can hold you upside down and get every
I don't know
cent.
why I believe you very much. There was no doubt in my mind that that's gonna
So
happen. but-
we'll do that. So, you know, that means that we're not going to be in debt and going back with our begging bowl. We have said we have a 7-year budget. 5 years is to prove at the end of 5 years we're no longer getting any money from the municipality, other than if there's like a special grant of some kind that
yeah,
we
you
would
know,
go
like,
after.
well, yeah.
You know,
you
if
have
there's
to
money
throw that
for
money away,
murals
that's right,
or
yeah.
downtown improvement or whatever.
I was
But
going to say no to money, but yes.
that basic funding that our, you know, one of our major funders right now is the municipality. They pay my salary. So at the end of 5 years, we have shown in our budget, which is the good hard work of our ED, that we will no longer be dependent on the municipality at the end of 5 years because of the whole idea of being a social enterprise. But then Leanna took it another 2 years. It's not enough to say, hey, here at this 5-year point, we don't need your money anymore. Mm-hmm. We're going to prove to you that in another 2 years after that, we still don't. So there. No.
Nice.
It's like, we don't want people saying, the arts are not flighty. The arts are business. And we teach the business of the arts. So what kind of an organization would we be if we didn't hold ourselves to those business standards we're trying to teach our artists? So we will be able to open those doors. There will be activity. There will be a thriving arts community in the downtown. When you come to town, and I hope you'll come for our opening.
Of course,
we
I have
some very exciting things planned for our opening. We'll have some different kinds of donor recognition. We'll be pushing our creativity to its limits to make this where everyone wants to be.
I can't wait for the VIP access passes that Rekha and I are going to have to go in there. But, manifest it, right?
VIP means you'll be out there with your camera? Where's the VIP?
It means whatever you want as long as I get exclusive access. No, that's amazing. I would love to keep you as long as I can keep you. However, I would also like you to go home because I feel bad that we've kept you here for so long. But before we head out and take off here, I'm just wondering if there was anything besides the incubator that the Arts Council Wood Buffalo is currently working on or has things coming up that you would like the folks at home to know about.
Absolutely. I would suggest that people go to Arts Council Wood Buffalo, our website, and there's an amazing blog that you can see historically some of the amazing things that we've done in the past. It'll keep you informed on anything that's coming forward. So at the moment, we have our Artist in Residence program, which is a combined 2-stream program with an Indigenous artist and a non-Indigenous artist. 2 really different artists doing 2 amazing things, and they're crossing paths to join together to do one small project.
Awesome.
Which is super exciting. This is new for us. We would have done them separately. We thought, hey, what happens if we put them together? Mm-hmm. So far so good. It'll also tell you about any other things that we have coming up. We do a thing a couple of times a year called Arts Match, mm-hmm. which is probably one of the most fun things. It's based on the 1980s speed dating.
Oh.
So the idea of Arts Match is that you might be here as one of the potential suitors. So there would be a series of tables, and at it would be people who are looking for people in the arts, volunteers, non-volunteers, actors, story writers, any number of things.
Okay.
And then all of the people in the arts that would like to know about these things. And basically, we do a cheesy lounge singer type thing and a 5-minute bell. And we do 2 rounds, and you get to go. So say there are 8 tables, you have 8 opportunities to give your pitch or hear a pitch.
Okay, that sounded way better than what I thought it was, which was artist tender. But,
We did have someone show up the first week and silently confess to me that he thought that it was an actual date night, which I totally made my day. I was like, our advertising is the best.
He's like, I'm in love. And you're like, congratulations, but this is for work. And he's like,
yeah. So, and since then has found a partner in the arts, which is awesome.
Oh, well,
so we play with that now. We use it as the launch point. We did one around our AGM this year, mm-hmm. so the people that attended the AGM could then stay after and meet artists from the community. The most fun things happen out of that. Really amazing collaborations. I got a cooking show out of it.
Oh.
It's one of our staffers who has Symmetry Theater. It was before he worked with us. He found almost all of the actors for his first production through Symmetry Theater. There's just any number of really fun collaborations that have come out of it.
Beautiful.
So www.acwb.ca, most fun you'll ever have.
Sharon, I wanted to thank you once again for taking the time, multiple times, to sit down with us or stand up with us and do this awesome, I love everything that I'm hearing and everything that I heard, and it's wonderful to see how energized, how everyone's all smiles. Even coming into this building and asking anyone about the programs, what's happening, they were just so excited. You can just feel the energy kind of emanating off of them about how excited they are for this, how much their heart is in this, which is wonderful. So we definitely are making it a promise here. We'll be back in 2 years to see the incubator 100%. And for the folks at home, please come on down and witness these awesome exhibits. We got to speak with one of the artists in residence that she was talking about, Kat, which if you had been watching earlier, you would have seen that we did that. But neither here nor there. I'm going to stop rambling. This has been Gabby, the G in RNG in the 780. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you folks next time.
Hey guys, this is R from RNG in the 780, Rekha here. We are today at the Keanu Theater, and we are going to be talking to Alan Roberts, who is the Director of Theater and Arts at the Center. Hello, Alan.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you so much for having us. It's been a wonderful time so far in Fort McMurray, so of course we had to come and see the theater.
Absolutely, you have to.
Can you take us into the space
Absolutely,
here?
come this way.
So we're getting a little backstage route here, a little secret for us.
Come on into the main
Thank
stage.
This is awesome. Check out this stage, right? Wow. Can you tell us a little bit about this space?
Sure, this is, it's officially called Keanu Theater. We opened in 1980. So we're, as a theater company, we're actually starting into our 41st season, kind of our 42nd season, but we don't talk about the missing year.
We don't talk about that.
Yeah, and it was a theater that when it was built in when it opened in 1980, it was very well equipped for the time, and we have done our best to make sure that it still is one of the best equipped theaters in Northern Alberta.
Yeah, it's a wonderful space to be in already. Like, I love how much space you have for people to come in and out, and just so many seats in the first place as well. Like, this must have been such a great time to have so many shows on this stage. Like, how many shows have been on this stage, do you know?
Oh goodness. For an example, we produce community theater, and I believe I just counted that we have done over 160 some odd shows.
Oh my gosh.
Most of them have been our own. Once in a while we'll bring in and present our own touring performances, but we've produced over 160 of our own theatrical performances on this stage.
Wow, that's amazing.
As well as concerts, which I can't even count. It's usually about 10 or 12 a year, so.
Oh, wow.
I don't have that many fingers.
No, definitely not. Like, the energy in this space is amazing. It's been touched and graced by so many artists and actors, and to be able to just talk about it is wonderful. And that's in Fort McMurray,
Yep.
right? Like, so easy to come out here, especially for the community, to come and see some shows every season, right? This is wonderful. Anyways, let's take a seat here and chat a little bit more. Thank you. All right. Oh, wow. This is amazing. So, Alan, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came into directing
Sure.
here?
Well, as the director.
As the director, yeah.
It's really, it's probably better to think of it as the general manager.
Okay.
As a title. Just within a college and institutional environment, they have different categories. But as for myself, I came up here in 1988 as a theater technician. That was my main training. I went through college to train as a theater technician. And I came up here for that 2-year plan that everybody had from Fort McMurray. 2 years and that's it. And that's sort of like what I say is probably one of my biggest failures.
You're like, I meant to do this, but now I'm here forever.
But I fell in love with the theater. I fell in love with the community, and the style of shows and performances that we bring here helped. The college has really embraced this theater over the years and has helped me grow with it, so that I grew from being a part-time theater technician, full-time, and then trained through becoming a technical director, the production manager for many of our shows, to my current position right now as the director of the theater.
Wow, that's amazing. Just something you didn't realize you were going to end up doing, and now you're here
Not
with
at
us.
all. I bought property up here and everything, so yeah, Yeah, it is a theater that I'm very proud of because of what it can do and what it does do.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. I mean, to be able to grow with this community of Fort McMurray in the first place, and then to have a little home here in this theater is wonderful. I mean, this theater is very well put together. So I do have to say that for sure. Like, even just looking up there, I'm sure you guys have done some changes,
Oh, yeah.
right? I think you mentioned a little bit about like the spacing.
Yeah, we've made sure that our seats are all upgraded. Our recent addition is the cup holders, because now it is acceptable to enjoy a beverage in the theater, where before it used to be a no-no. We've done some modifications to account for COVID so that we could safely bring our patrons in as well. But technology, we have the same technology that any other theater would have, because we have to make sure that we can meet the needs of professional touring artists. So like when performers like Johnny Reed or Aaron Goodwin or somebody come up here, that we can actually meet their needs. And that when our patrons come in, that they're going to experience a fantastic show.
Yeah, definitely. To be able to keep that up to date constantly, that's actually amazing. I mean, you know, I have to say, like, I'm sure that people are biased when they come up and they don't know what to expect, right? Because there's still that idea that Fort McMurray is a smaller community, right? But why wouldn't you guys be able to keep up and, in fact, be like, we have it all, right?
We have a great community. With our industry there, we have some top people. We have very, very smart people in the engineering and all that out at sites. We have a huge educational component with our schools and everything else. So everybody come up here wants the exact same things that they see in any other major center.
Definitely. And can you tell us a little bit about the Keanu Theater program, since you guys have such an amazing space to work in?
Sure. We do a lot of things, and I find that it always surprises people because, as you mentioned, we are a theater that we say at the end of the highway. Because we're not really we don't have that touring route where people will pass through us. So we're a destination. So I guess we're a destination theater.
Yeah.
But what really started this theater was the community aspect, where there used to be a small community theater company, but they wanted a larger space. So they lobbied and created steering committees, which helped us build the theater we have now. So we produce live community theater. Right now we're doing 2 shows a season, but we've done 3 shows as a subscription series where all the actors are volunteers.
Oh, wow.
And they're doing 8 weeks of rehearsals. We hire professional designers, directors, choreo, whatever needs to support them so they can achieve the best show and the best experience possible. And then those shows run over 2 weekends. So it'll be anywhere from 5 to 7 or 8 performances, depending on the style of show. If we do a really good family musical, usually we'll draw a few more people there, so we'll do matinees. So we run those shows, and on top of that, we also we as Keanu Theater present a concert series that we call the Synchro Arts Alive. So this is where we'll bring in professional touring artists of all genres, music, dance, ballet, acrobatics, comedy.
Wow.
Just so that there is something to do, something to entertain, something to engage, something to talk about. And then we're also a host facility for the community to rent. So if the local dance companies want to produce on the main stage, we'll support them that. Or there might be other artists touring around that want to present themselves. So we are that facility for them.
Oh, that's amazing. It's a very versatile space. You have a lot of different groups and you're able to cater to a lot of different audiences at that point, right? If one thing is not really your cup of tea, at least you can come in and check out other things, or even like when you're talking about the volunteer aspect, even just to be able to try something new, especially in the arts, like you don't have to be extremely trained to try something new, especially when it comes to acting, right?
And that's what's really key, because we have people that will come here and watch their friends and family on stage and go, wow, they're good, but maybe I could do that. So we encourage them to come out. And they might start out being, maybe it's not a large role, but it's something that's given them a little bit of an experience, and it starts to build up that confidence. And then I always find it starts to drive them so they work a little bit harder. And like I say, we've had a lot of growth with our community.
That's wonderful. It's wonderful to see the arts literally bring people together, bring people out of their shell, and give them this totally different experience. I mean, I can only imagine how much pride people feel when they see their friends and family on stage, and then feeling that amazing encouragement to be like, you know what, I never did this in high school, but I want to do this now, right? Especially since, you know, you can only take so many classes in high school. But when you're a little bit older and you get to kind of like choose where your time goes, especially as a volunteer, to be able to be part of your community, I can only imagine how wonderful that is for people. And just to be in this space alone, it just has so much energy to it, right? There are very few of us in this space right now, but it just feels really nice in here, right?
We're about to get busy. We have a youth theater camp starting up in a week.
Oh, wow.
We call it Drama Force. It's where there'll be 38 students. I think their ages run between 10 and 17. They're going to be working continuously for 3 weeks straight to put on a production of Newsies Junior.
Wow.
And they'll be rehearsing on the stage, so they learn the choreo, the music, the directing. We actually will be building them the set, providing costumes, full lighting design. So they're going to finish off with 3 fully produced shows. So it's going to get a little crazy here.
You could already have like a full production under your belt at that age, and during the summer especially, to do something like that is such a wonderful experience at that point, really. Like, when did you guys start developing this program?
I believe we're in our 8th year of Drama Force.
Oh,
there's been a history of it here at Canada Theatre. When I first came up, the first show that I sort of watched in the summer while I was working on another project was a youth theatre program, and that I wasn't that familiar with those before, so I kind of watched that. And throughout the years, it sort of moved from center to center, and then there was a lull. And when I became the director of the theatre, I checked to see is there a need or demand for it, and there sure was. So we jumped in with 30 students right off the bat.
That's an amazing amount of students to come forward like that.
It caught us off guard, but very, very excited. And it's a program that the moment we announce it, we basically fill up within a week or 2.
Oh, wow. That's really fast.
Yeah.
And are there, like, I'm not really familiar with the different schools in Fort Mac, but are they predominantly from one school, or is it just like all of
They're
them
all over.
Wow.
We have our school systems, a lot of them have a lot of arts programming in them that sort of start nurturing it. And we find that the kids and everything just interact. Like, they're on social, they're crossing over between schools and everything else, so they're always talking. So the moment we announce something, it's heard, and it's a good way how they all come together from all these different areas.
Oh, yeah, definitely. To be able to learn that team building and that trust, and then put on an amazing show together, to create art together, and do that all during your summertime, your leisure time, and not realize you're putting in work, right?
Yeah, I'm very impressed at these kids, that this is their summer and this is what they look forward to. Where I was a camper, and because we didn't have these opportunities and stuff, so I'm very thrilled that they consider this as their summer fun.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's challenging, but they have such a good time with it. I'm glad that we can help occupy their summer with it.
That's awesome, yeah. And I hear that you guys also have a couple like theater companies as well on top of that. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Sure. Here I am stumbling. What's so excited? There's so many energetic and arts oriented people in there that we have 2. Well, there's actually there's many more than that, but there's 2 larger community, smaller theater companies that are producing some of their works their own. There's one company called Theater Just Because, it's been around for quite a while, that we will assist with. It's really great because they offer opportunities for people in the community that might be too intimidated to come into some of our shows, or their friends are saying, hey, why don't you join me in this type of a program and stuff. And it helps them overcome any types of fears or gain the confidence. And they're actually able to produce shows that we may not be able to as Canada Theatre Company, because we're looking at shows that are sort of maybe a little bit on the mainstream or for the larger audiences, and they can do some of those nitty-grittier style of shows. And and we'll help them either with assisting them with a space if one of our venues is okay with them, or expertise. And we have the other theater company that we've been working with recently is the Swamp Rat Experience.
Oh, okay.
Where we just produced a amazing farce called Sweet Surrender in our smaller theater, and that show is just a lot of fun to do.
Oh, wow, that's so cool. Nice. Yeah, I noticed that you guys have like a few different spaces. So this is your large theater, your larger theater.
This is the first one that was built.
And then can you tell us a bit about the other theater that you have as well?
Sure. When this theater opened, it was 1980. It was, when I was digging through all the records, 3 years later, there was already a steering committee going, this wasn't enough. The community at that time wanted some more. They were looking for spaces that would maybe be a little bit more intimate for some of the smaller music recitals and everything else. So they started the planning for the expansion of the Arts Center. And when the Arts Center, it opened in 1990. So it came about 10 years later. And in that we added on it's a 197 seat recital theater, we call it, really designed acoustically for music. It's one that you rarely need to add the extra microphones and sound reinforcement to it. But because it's a smaller space, it's easier for a lot of our community people to access it because there isn't that panic that you have to fill 500 seats.
Yeah.
And you can give a really good intimate experience there. On the economic side, it's a little bit more affordable in some senses because it doesn't cost as much to operate.
Oh, okay, right,
Where this is a larger theater, we need some more technical staff to operate it. That's a smaller theater, only requires the one person on it. So it works in that way depending on what your needs and what your show is. And we'll use it for our own concerts. If I want to do like a good classical music concert, that's the best space to be there because you can be really up close and intimate to a pianist or a cellist or any other type of musician that way.
Oh, and that's amazing because then you can really see your performer up close. Like you can really see their passion. You can feel that energy a little bit better than if you're too far away, really, right? And then having that sound, literally having a space that's built to hold that sound and to carry that sound, and then you have this space to carry the people and have a little bit more going on. That's great for versatility and all in one area as well. Do you guys ever have kind of like shows going at the same time?
Yes.
Oh, awesome.
That's fun. I know our front of house, they sort of give me the evil eye when I say, hey, we got 2 events happening the same night. But it is fun because the energy you have, because we share lobbies and services there, the energy you get in the space of these people coming out, because sometimes if the intermissions happen to overlap, you hear the mingling going, so what are you seeing? What are you seeing? Oh, is there another night? Can I come back and see it and everything else like that? But I love it. There are times where between our theaters and even our hallways where we have a lot of dance and stuff happening on that, you sort of feel like you're in Fame.
Oh, that's so cool though. That's amazing. I mean, like to have
If people know that reference.
just to have like that little experience of that hustle and bustle in one building, right? Oh, what show are you seeing? Oh, I'm seeing this show. Oh, I just came out of this show. To be able to just discuss what you just saw with people, and even then, do you really even need to advertise as much when you have people sitting there talking and being able to discuss the art that they just watched, right? And almost be like, hey, want to swap places?
Yeah, definitely the word of mouth is the best way for promotion of all this stuff. It's when you hear the excitement of, oh, I really saw the show. Even if we're not showing it again, it's nice to for people to talk about it because maybe another show that's coming up would be similar or comparable for them to come and see.
Oh yeah, definitely. What are your seasons like? Do you guys ever have I guess specifically like festival seasons for people to kind of show like all their talent?
Unfortunately, we don't have that.
Oh, okay.
There used to be a summer festival called Interplay, which was a street festival, kind of a fringe style event where would be music on the streets and indoor experimental theater and everything else. And we actually ended up hosting it for a couple of years here as well. We do have, though, throughout the summer, we have other organizations that are always presenting something unique, whether or not it's a food festival that will incorporate local or some new emerging artists will come into that. There's, we have summer year-end festivals and stuff, and there's other promoters in town that are presenting concerts. So there's always something happening of all this various type of music and everything, not necessarily in a festival format, though.
Oh, okay, but there's still a lot going on with events and a lot of people coming forward and wanting to share their talents and share those kinds of stories on stage, especially. I almost feel like I'm missing out from what you're talking about. Like I want to know what your guys' Christmas is like. If you do anything, do you guys do anything for Christmases? Okay.
Well, it varies as to when our season show, our community theater shows can go up, because we have done some Christmas specific ones. Like we've done A Christmas Story and of course A Christmas Carol, Miracle on 34th Street. We've presented some of those. If we're not able to do some of our performances, that I'll make sure that I'm bringing in concerts as well, where we'll actually have some big artists do their Christmas concerts, and that's always fun. We've had Michelle Wright on stage, who's just lovely to work with. We have a big Christmas country concert planned this year, but I can't release the name yet.
Oh no, it's a
But
little
yeah.
secret one. That one you'll definitely have to like keep track of so
exactly.
that we can find
Yeah,
out.
and there's another one. There's Ken Levine's doing a show called A Night. Oh, I'm going to mess it up. But he's a tenor, and he's doing a really beautiful Christmas performance as well.
Oh, wonderful.
And then what's really great is often we'll get our elementary schools will do their year-end Christmas concerts. And there's nothing that says Christmas better than seeing some of the school performances on stage.
Oh my gosh, that's adorable.
Yeah, we decorate the lobby with the 16-foot Christmas tree and everything else. So we want to make sure that we're very festive.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like nothing better than walking in and seeing like all the beautiful like decor, especially for Christmas, and being able to come into some amazing like musical pieces, everyone showcasing their talents, right? There's always going to be something for everyone to make beautiful memories,
absolutely.
right? I wonder though, like what is your summer like other than Arts Force? What else is
The Drama Force, the summer, because we're so busy predominantly from September to June, we take the summer to wind down a little bit. We take our summer holidays, but at the same time we're doing maintenance. We have two of the theaters that we have to maintain, so we're going through maintenance, clean up any type of upgrades we do. We sort of do it during the quiet summer periods, and we do our planning. What really keeps us busy is the studios that we have attached to our theaters are heavily used with dance intensives over the summer. So this summer we have 2 different companies that are using our dance studios. So even though we're quiet on the stage, we're really busy in the back hallways.
Oh yes, that's right. So that dance studio is also another space that you guys are able to kind of lend out and use. Can you tell us a bit about that?
We actually have, I'm just doing a quick count, 5 dance studios buried in the back hallways there. We have a large space that we call our rehearsal hall. It's the same size as the main theater, and all of our studio spaces are equipped with sprung floors so that they actually are proper for dance on it. And we have some of our rooms are equipped with mirrors, ballet bars, and sound systems, of course. But throughout all of our dance studios, we have several dance companies that teach and use our studios at night. And they range from competition dance to the Ukrainian dancers, Irish dancers, Scottish Highland dancers. We have quite a variety of different people using our studios at night.
Oh, that's wonderful. It sounds like Keanu Theater is very much like a community as well. Like you guys are really inviting everyone from all the different disciplines.
That's our focus, is really to make sure that we are accessible to the community. We work very hard to make sure that they know what services we can offer. We're very well supported as a facility. Like we're supported from the college, we're supported from the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo. Our industry are great supporters of us. So all of these organizations help us as Keanu Theater support our community.
Oh, that's awesome. That's wonderful. I think that it's really important for communities to want to support their arts and be able to back them and be like, you know what, we need you guys, because what is a community without arts, right? Being able to come together and celebrate each other. I think that's
the
huge.
arts are what makes us. They just provide our life. They provide our means of telling our stories. They're our way of just engaging.
Yes,
engaging.
exactly. Like, we're coming all the way from Edmonton, right? We want to explore Fort McMurray, and one of the most exciting things for me was being able to come into a theater again and even just talk about the history of someone else's theater and what it's gone through, what it's currently going through. What has been probably your favorite, I guess, your favorite thing or favorite memory about Keanu Theater?
Oh, that's always the trickiest question. I get asked it all the time, and you think I would actually have a very simple answer, but I don't. Really, what my biggest takeaway is when I see somebody having an amazing experience. I've done shows where, in rehearsals, you see the actors are just, oh my God, this is grueling, and they're working through, and I don't know if we can get this. And then you see sort of like that final performance just before the audience comes in, or you see them on opening night, and they're like beaming, and they go, oh my God, we nailed this. We had such a good time. That's really where I get re-energized, because you kind of see that, oh guys, this is going to work out, trust us. It doesn't seem, you're dancing on tape. You have pieces of paper that aren't real and stuff, but once we put them on the stage and it can all come together, that's when I see the magic happen. And that's really makes me feel a lot better. And then of course there's the closing night, which just sort of kills you because everyone is so upset that it's over now and we have to take everything down, but it means we're going to start something new.
Oh yes, definitely. It's always that little bit at the end where you're like, oh, man, I want to relive it. Yeah. But then you just got to keep going. Got to do another project, do another production, you know, start rehearsals for something else.
Exactly.
Of course, yes, definitely. What has been your favorite performance? Maybe have you been in any of the performances yourself?
No.
Actually,
I used to in high school.
Okay.
But it was in high school where I was majoring in acting for a long time, but I always had a technical thing, and it was in the high school I had a fly tower. And I remember looking up and going, well, that's cool. And so then I went in, and that's where my college years went to, is to learn more about the technical side of theater, because it had the technology. And of course, the technology we use in theater now compared to what we did in my years is just astounding. It is so cool what we can do now. And with things like the advent of video and the way how networks and everything all interconnects is just amazing.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, like it is really interesting for me to hear about how technology changes for people, especially when you're there to see it happen. You're there to experience it versus when you first start learning things, especially in a theater and how they work. I think we learned like the basics of like how the walls work with each other, how different types of fabrics will create different noises or dampen noises. And now we get to the point where it's like, you're not just trying to project into a theater, you're allowed, the theater's built to carry the sound and having speaker systems and everything. It's like, it's just so cool to nerd out, isn't it?
It is. I often call, like a lot of times when people come into the theater, that sometimes, you know, we're kind of the masters of fraud and deceit. We're creating an experience for them that they may not see everything that's happening behind the scenes, but we're creating an experience. We are working on manipulating emotions. That's part of our storytelling. But it's the magic of exactly how you say you do it, how we do it with the sound, how we do it with our physical environment, how we treat the environment, even down to how our seats are. Like, I want to make sure that people, when they sit here, are comfortable, but I want them to stay awake.
Yes. Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah. And it would be hard not to stay awake with some of the amazing performances that go on here, for sure. Alan, would you mind telling people at home kind of like how they can reach out to Keyano Theatre, how they can maybe volunteer their time?
That's quite simple. It's give us a call. It's like, there's our website, which is keyano.ca/theater. We have contact information on there for either myself. We have a patron services coordinator that helps with placement if people ever want to volunteer for us. Because you can volunteer on stage, backstage, front of house, ticket taking, coat check, services there. Even behind the scenes in some construction items, if you want to help do some of the scenic painting or stuff like that. So our patron services coordinator takes care of all of that. Drop by.
Awesome.
That's another thing too. We always have somebody in our office during regular college hours. So if it's one of those things that if you're even curious, come on by. Oh,
that's wonderful. Yeah. Keyano Theatre is an extremely welcoming theater, and everyone here has been really warm and nice to us so far. And we've loved the experience of being here in the first place. But yeah, I just want to thank you, Alan, for
my pleasure.
Welcoming us into the space, for giving us your time and talking to us a little bit about the theater, and you know, just for giving the folks at home an idea of how easy it is to be part of something like this, to be part of your community and just reach out. Yes. So thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. This has been R in RNG in the 780. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.